Oh.
Yay. So, okay. All right. I know we're getting started just a little bit late because the session before lunch went a little over, but that's okay. We had a great session. There's still a few more parents out there, but we're gonna get started now. And I would like to thank our speaker and our panel for being here today. This is Katie. Katie is a capstone student. She is an orthopedic. She's an occupational therapy student who will, after this, yeah, you just changed your major? She, along with these two ladies right here, are the three ladies, if you looked at my slides earlier, that are occupational therapy students that in May will graduate and then become doctors. And they've been here and they are all doing their capstone project under Dr. Gretchen Johnson. So thank you, Gretchen. Katie's going to be presenting to you today at the importance of camp, which means Camp TLC and family camps. And we have a panel with us today of a parent and two adults with spina bifida who have been campers and who have also been camp counselors at camp. So they should give you a good experience of things. And then afterwards, question and answers. Julie Carter, our Camp TLC chair, is here. And if you have family camp questions, I will try to be back in here. And I'm going to go work on your raffle tickets now. Thank you, Katie. And thank you, panel.
Wow.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Katie Davis. I am an occupational therapy student at Texas Women's Dallas. My capstone project is mostly focused on family education and working on supporting independence in children with spina bifida, specifically through experiences such as summer camp. My goal for y'all today is just to feel informed and supported about what camp can look like for you and your family. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so today we are going to explore how structured camp experiences can help support developmental growth. We're going to discuss different readiness levels that y'all are at right now. We're going to go through details of what Hispanic family camp looks like and what Camp TLC and Fall Family Camp looks like. And then we, of course, have our amazing panel plans. They'll get to give you the real camper and family perspectives. And then we'll finish off with talking about how to get your child specifically ready for camp. So just as a fun icebreaker, if y'all will go ahead and bring out your phones and scan the QR code, we are going to do a little word cloud to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and click out of this. Alrighty. Okay, I was just shown how to do this, so hopefully I can figure this out. I did it. Okay, so if y'all will scan the QR code, and it'll be anonymous. The question is, what is a camp memory that makes you smile? So that can be like a 1-word or 2-word phrase. So if you think of like s'mores or friends or tents, like whatever makes you think of camp, and you can put that in there. Okay, yeah, horseback riding, that's a great one. Crafts. Yes. Well, and if it doesn't work or if it's not loading, y'all can always raise your hand if you feel like you want to answer, but if not, that's okay. All right. Got some good ones coming in. Those are great. Zip line, skits in theater.
community. Yeah, so these are some great memories that I know I have a lot of memories from my childhood camps, and a lot of those include s'mores or being outside by the bonfire or making new friends and making crafts. And so, yeah, these are just great things that we can reflect on that Camp TLC and Fall Family Camp and Hispanic Family Camp will look like as well. So I will go ahead. Is anyone still putting some up there? No, we're good. Okay, I'll go ahead and click out of it. Alrighty. Okay, so we're gonna dive right into talking about independence. Independence takes time. It's a skill that has to be practiced over and over again. So I just brought up some points of how independence is built. A lot of times it's built through encouragement after both success and struggles. It's important to have that encouragement after both. And then also having support that gradually fades over time. So an example of this is if your child gets ready at night, they can maybe start gathering their clothes, or maybe they're doing the first step of their routine and slowly start incorporating that and incorporating them into their own routines. And also another important point is having a safe environment where they feel like mistakes are okay. I know like when I grew up, I always felt like I couldn't make mistakes, and even now as an adult, I always get worried about failure, but really that's where you learn. That's how growth happens, is making those mistakes. And so really celebrating when children do make mistakes, because that just means that they're learning and they're growing. And then having those repeated opportunities over and over again to practice those real life skills, that's only going to help them get better. And so going into that, experiences that specifically help shape growth. So like camp is one of those experiences that children will have the chance to practice independence, but in supported groups, like with support next to them. And so ways that camp specifically can help support growth is through strengthening their confidence and their own abilities. Camp can help develop decision making, working on practice, or problem solving skills. There's many different activities and choices that they will get to make that help support decision making. And then also just building connection. Whenever you're able to be around peers that have similar experiences as you, that alone can just build your confidence and help them feel supported. Um, so that is crucial. So camp is obviously a really fun week, and it's a fun time, but it also builds more than just memories. Some of those things that we had just mentioned, like the self-confidence, the peer connection, problem solving, and also emotional resilience. Sometimes this is the first time your child might be away from home, and they have to overcome those feelings of anxiety. Or they might be challenging themselves to a new task that they've never done before. And so having the support of other counselors and other people around them to just encourage them can help build that emotional resilience. And so as a part of my capstone project, I will be creating a camp video. It'll feature some camper perspectives, some family perspectives, just to get a good insight of what camp truly looks like. And that'll be a great resource that you and your family can watch to prepare for camp. Okay, so we're gonna do another anonymous poll. So if you'll bring out your phones, it'll be the same website. The question is, when you think of sending your child to an overnight camp, where are you right now? And it's okay to be totally honest about where you're at, because that's what we want to see. Let me get that pulled up. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah. kind of all over the place, which is good. Yeah. 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 Ah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah. Is there anyone else still scanning? And again, always the option to raise your hand if you feel brave, but oh, it's moving. Someone went out of it. I don't know. Yeah, people are maybe changing their responses, which is okay. Oh well. Okay, anyone else? Oh, right when I said that. All right. Okay. So hopefully, I mean, that's totally okay with where you're at right now. If you are not there yet, or you've done camp before and you feel totally confident, it's just a great insight to hear more about it. But hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll be ready to go. So that's the hope. Um, so I'll go ahead and click out of that. There we go. Okay. So specifically talking about details of camp, we're first going to talk about family camp. The Spina Bifida Association of North Texas offers two different types of family camps. We've got Hispanic Family Camp coming up in March, which is right around the corner. It's the 20th through the 22nd, and registration closes on the 2nd, which is only a few days away. So if you are interested, sign up as soon as you can. So family camp is an overnight experience. It kind of helps get children introduced to that camp experience, but with family present. It is a fully accessible camp environment at Camp John Mark. Um, Children will get used to that exposure to routines, and that camp structure. And then also as a family, it's just a really great experience to make connections with other families with children with spina bifida, and you just get to make friends as well, which is super fun. And so then we have some fun pictures from previous camps, lots of activities that you get to do together. Okay, and then now we're gonna dive into Camp TLC. And so that is the summer camp that happens in June. It is a 6-day residential camp at Camp John Mark, and it's for ages 8 through 16. About 3 counselors to 6 or 7 children in each cabin. It is that fully accessible camp environment at Camp John Mark. There is always professional medical support on site and many structured opportunities to practice independence. So diving into more of the medical support. So medical support is the foundation of camp. There's always doctors and nursing staff on site. Medicine routines and medical routines are supervised. There is emergency preparedness and safety protocols that go into everything that they do. All the camp counselors are highly trained, and the low camper to counselor ratio makes sure that your child is supported the entire time that they are at camp. And a big part of making sure that they are supported is starting your application as soon as possible. It is a lengthy process to make sure that everyone has your child's medical history. And so you want to try to get that as soon as possible just to stay on top of it so that all camp counselors and staff can make sure that they take care of your child the best way that they know how. Okay, so we're going to take a look at what a day in the life of a camper looks like. So this is a very brief overview, but in the mornings, they'll start off with their routines. They'll go on to breakfast. A lot of times in those midday sections, you have structured activities. And then, of course, lunch. They'll have built-in rest times as well, because just as much as everyone wants to have fun, it's also important to have those rest times. A lot of recreational and activity times as well. And then the evenings, it looks like dinner, having social events, and then having a supported wind down routine as well. And so we're just going to look at some pictures of what some of those activities look like. And of course, there's activities for every single kid, and they are able to adapt and meet your kid wherever they are at. So there's water games, karaoke. There's archery, variety of different camp songs. Therapy dogs will be there for those furry friends. A variety of arts and crafts, as well as fishing. And then there's variety of projects that your child will get to choose from. And in past years, it's been pottery has been an option, different sports. And there's a thing such as lights, camera, action that I might have one of y'all explain because it's a fun experience that they can choose from. And then, of course, we have the zip line, which is a fan favorite. So while your child is at camp, so at drop off, you'll have the opportunity to give letters that they'll be able to read every day of camp, to help soothe some of those anxieties about being away from home. And then also for the families, you'll receive a daily newsletter going out with pictures and daily updates, so that you still feel connected from home. All right. So talking about now that we've talked about all the details of camp and hopefully you feel a little bit better about those, we're going to talk about just getting ready for camp together as a family. So building that comfort from with time away from home. That can look like having open conversations about camp, normalize those feelings of anxiety. That's a very normal thing, but just providing that positive reassurance of it's going to be a great time. You're going to get to do some really fun activities and you're going to meet a lot of friends. Just anything that you can do to provide that positive language. And then also practicing daily independence. Of course, they're going to have that support, but any way that they can have a part in their routine from home, that is always that is always encouraged. And then also just supporting their growth and self-advocacy. So practicing knowing when or asking whenever they need help, building their confidence through celebrating even those small wins. So it might be, like I mentioned earlier, if they're able to start with the first task of their routine, like gathering their clothes, celebrating that, like any aspect that you can really encourage them is great. And then knowing their health needs, it's always important for them to begin to understand their body and their own personal routines, such as their allergies and medications. And of course, the medical staff is going to know that and be able to help, but it's always good for your child as an individual to start understanding that their own body. Okay, so now we're going to move into our fun panel discussion. I've got some questions planned out for them. So I'm just going to ask that y'all introduce yourselves, maybe say how many years you've gone to camp. And then for the first question, it is what has been your favorite camp memory so far? So if Jordan, if you want to start us off.
Hello. Hello. My name is Jordan. I was a camper for 8 years, the whole way through. And then I have been a counselor for a few years. And then I was on Camp John Mark's staff for a couple years as well. My favorite camp memory, ooh, I don't know if I have a favorite, but one of my earliest camp memories, Julie Carter was actually one of my counselors. I think I think I was 8 at the time. And we had sleep out that night. And that's where we go and spend a night outside, somewhere around camp. And we were on the fishing pier. And it's a really cool opportunity. And we just had a great time, but we were just up giggling for probably a couple hours and probably drove our counselors a little bit crazy, but it was a great time for us.
Nice.
Hello. Hi, my name's Ashley House. I have a son who will be 9 in a few weeks. His name's Avery. We've done family camp since he was like just shy of 3. So we went in 2019 and then we missed a few years because of COVID. And then we've gone every year since that it's been offered. And then he did the Camp TLC last summer for the first time because they allowed 8-year-olds to go and he was very excited. So I always think fondly, like have fond memories of camp. But our first camp going was like our real first connection with other families who had kids with spina bifida and just letting him go in his wheelchair and not worrying about it and not like, I don't know, it was just such a freedom and it was so fun. We like kept up with some of those families and have stayed connected. And so I think that's one of my favorite camp memories.
Hello, I'm Caden. I've been to camp pretty much all the way through except for COVID. Let's see, my favorite would probably just be being around other kids with my same disability, and just being able to feel connected to them, having those friends, having those types of people.
Perfect. All right. Well, those are some great memories. Thank you all so much for sharing. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. Were you nervous before going off to camp, and what are some things that helped you feel more comfortable once you were there? And then for Ashley, were you nervous sending your child off to camp? Whoever wants to start first, I guess.
Maybe. Okay. So I was not nervous. Avery has done like sleepovers with family and some like close friends and stuff. So I was more nervous about how he was feeling, not so much myself sending him away because so after the previous family camp, he was like, I am ready to go to camp. I hope they let 8-year-olds go. And when I told him, he was so excited. And he was like pumped talking about it all the way up to camp. And then the morning of, all of those emotions hit. And he was like, where am I going to put my shoes?
Aw.
And I was like, well, you're going to put them by your bed. But what about my other shoe? Anyways, you could tell. I was like, calm down. And then, but as soon as we got here and he was rolling around with all his friends while we did all the registration stuff, he was fine. In fact, like a bunch of these little boys were all crying getting off the bus when they came back because they didn't want to leave their friends. So yeah.
That's so great.
I was not at all nervous. I went to family camp for forever, so I was already pretty familiar with like where I was going and I don't know. I mean, I remember I would just kind of get on the bus and say, "All right, bye. Have fun."
It's independent.
Yeah, I don't. It was fun.
I definitely was pretty nervous. It was really my first like camp that I've ever really gone to. Um, uh, I definitely was very nervous, but getting there, it really just it was a very welcoming environment, and I felt like I was like, okay, this is actually gonna be really fun. So.
Yeah, of course.
And I would add that, like, for you guys with younger kids, that's why family camp is so great because by the time they've done that a few times and then they're old enough to go for the week, the nerves they know where they're going. They know how to get around camp. They know the camp songs. They have friends. Like, it made a huge difference in just preparing them ahead of time.
For sure. Yeah, see, that shows.
That's something I didn't get to experience. I never went to any of the family camps, so I had no idea what I was going into. I had no idea what to expect. So family camp's definitely a good place to go to first.
For sure. Yep. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next one. Did camp make you feel more confident in any of your abilities? If so, how? And then for Ashley, did you notice any new confidence within your child afterwards?
Um, if you guys have met Avery, he's pretty confident already. I mean, he has his struggles, but I think it definitely was a driver for us to push towards more independence with certain things
Mhm.
ahead of camp. Not that that was a restriction for him not being able to go, because it's not. But for me, it was like a good reminder that like he's fully capable of doing some of this and I need to take a step back. And so that was a good driver. And he's gained a lot of independence since camp. I think it does help, like, oh, I can do this, I can do hard things, and it kind of feeds into the other tasks that they have to do.
For sure. And if y'all want to even tie in like how squad or mentorship works, how y'all were able to do that.
Um, I think one of the coolest parts, I guess, ties into confidence, for like me as a camper and then going back as a counselor is it's like really the only place where like we as like kids with disabilities like outnumber like everyone else. We're like not the odd ones out. We like everything we have to do on a daily basis is super normal, and even just like the language of like cathing and bowel programs, like it's not this weird or like kind of secretive thing. We just kind of get to like talk about it or so that was always like one of my favorite parts is like this thing is like different, but it's not like weird, like kind of how it is in like the normal world.
It's definitely not like a hush hush subject at camp. It's very openly talked about. It's actually encouraged kind of to be talked about with your, especially with your specific counselors and your nurse.
Or maybe like what it is.
All right, so Squad is our program for our 16-year-olds that we use. So we kind of graduate out at 15, I guess, from the traditional camp activities. Campers still come to camp and they're in the same environment. But we Squad, um, we do, I guess, educational sessions with these kids to help them start their transition from the like the teenage to young adult years. So we sometimes we'll talk about driving, we'll talk about the transition from high school to secondary, like whether that's college, whether that's finding a job, whether that's volunteer work, whatever that looks like for each camper, just to try to help start giving them the tools now instead of, they turn 18 and suddenly they're out in the world and they're struggling to function or struggling to manage healthcare when, doctors won't talk to their parents, just kind of those sorts of things.
For sure. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the next question. Did you make friends at camp? If so, what was that like? And then for Ashley with family camp, were you able, you already kind of mentioned you were able to make some of those connections, but maybe you can dive a little bit further into that.
I did look at the questions. No. Okay. Yeah, I think it, like I said, going to that first family camp was like huge for our family because that was our like real first experience in getting connected with other families who have kids with spina bifida. And so, I like tell everybody that we meet about it. And I'm an extrovert, so I have made some friends at camp because I like walked up to their table and I was like, hey,
You're
asking a million questions. You want to sit with us? And now they're like some of our best friends. And so it's really great because like Avery is the only kid. He's actually not the only kid in our school district with spina bifida. There's another family, and that's how we found out about family camp, because we had connected with them in our community, and then they told us about it. Their daughter's older, but in their like day to day, like normal lives, they are the odd ones out. They're the different ones, and so for them to get into a group of friends where that's not the case, and they can just be silly, and it's normal to have their wheelchair or have to take the elevator, not the stairs, or like you don't have to ask your friends to wait for you because you're all wheeling together and those kind of things. And so it's been like, I don't know, I feel like it's really like life changing for our entire family to be like that involved in the community, but also for Avery to have those kind of friendships. So
Yeah, that's great.
I definitely was able to make friends. A lot of them I still am in contact with today. From like the ones that I made from my very first year, it was like I was basically best buds with them by the second day. It was super easy to connect with them, super easy to make friends. And again, a lot of them I still am in contact with today. Almost what, 10 years later, 11 years later. So
Yep, I have some friends too from some of my first couple years as like little kids. Still talk some. We ended up playing sports together or different events here. Some of them I just kind of follow on Instagram, but it's still kind of cool to like keep up and see what everyone's doing, even, 10, 15 years later.
Alrighty, so I have a surprise question for y'all. Nothing too crazy, but what is one thing that you wish you would have known before going to camp or sending your child off to camp? And you can take a second to think about it. Is there anything like whenever you got there that you're like, oh wait, I wish I would have known more about this or would have been prepared for this ahead of time?
I don't feel like anything comes to mind. I
Okay.
mean, I will say like Robin and Julie do a great job of here's your checklist, here's what to expect. So like if you've never been, then yeah, like you're probably going to wonder about some things, but they do a really good job of preparing you, and I'm an over preparer anyway. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's reassuring that y'all all felt prepared. That's
Yeah, no,
great.
it's especially for camp. It's like, here's your checklist. You put this stuff in bag 1, you put this stuff in bag 2, like use these labels. It's like all very, you don't have to think a lot about it. And
Okay,
so that
good.
takes a lot of pressure off of as a parent of, oh, I don't want to forget this kind of thing, because as you know, packing your kid up that has spina bifida to do something is a little different than any other kids. And so like remembering you need like all of those equipment and supplies and that kind of thing. And I would again just push family camp, because then you have in your mind where they're going to be, like a
Mhm.
visual of it, and the bathroom setup, and the layout of the camp and how the mealtime works and all of that stuff. So big proponent for family
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah. Go family camp. Yeah, of course. Grab the extra mic.
So the greatest thing about what she is saying about that is that the campers don't have to go into a brand new environment to start being independent. They can be there with mom, and mom can say, "Oh, you can sit your catheter here and you can do this, and this is how you can transfer to the toilet, or this is the bed and this is the bed where you're going to put your shoes." And all of those things that are so important. And what you said about just pushing him, oh, I'm doing some of these things and he can do them, is perfect. I have a camp when I was a counselor for a boys' cabin many moons ago. This boy, he said he could not dress himself. He couldn't bathe himself. He couldn't do any of these things. And so I went through the whole week, and it was Wednesday night, and there was something happening in the cabin that I had to be somewhere else. And so I sent him to his bed from the shower with his towel, and I said, "I'll be there in a minute to help you." And so when I came out, he kept yelling my name. I said, "I'll be right there. I know, I'll be right there." And when I came out, he was completely dressed, head to toe. His braces were on, shoes were on, tied, and everything. And I said, "You can do this?" He goes, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, why haven't you been doing this?" And he says, "Well, you're a mom." And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, Well, it gives my mom something to do. She likes doing it. And so I, at that moment, was like, I have been working so hard to take care of you all week. So I figured that you guys need to know your kids think that you're getting, enjoyment and fulfillment out of doing these things. And maybe they're not, maybe you're just doing them because it's faster, or maybe you're doing it because it's easier than fighting them or whatever. But they have this picture that this is what you were put on this face of the earth to do. And we all know that's not true. So that's just one of the things I think that being prepared by going to family camp is huge. We can see a difference in the kids that have gone to camp, family camp, and those that haven't, with their ability to just not be so anxious. Not just, I mean, they're still going to have homesickness. They're still going to have some anxiety. They're still going to have all that, but you're taking away the unknown, and the unknown is a scary thing for these kids. So to me, that's really important.
For sure. For sure. Alrighty, so that is all that we have prepared as far as the prepared questions. But if there are any questions out there, that we'll go ahead and take a few of those since we have some time to do so. So if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask a question. Anything? Give us a little bit of insight of what the mentor program looks like.
Another kind of program we have other than the squad is the mentors, which is for the 17-year-olds, because they're not quite old enough to be counselor, but they've aged out of camper. So they're basically like a younger sort of counselor. They get put in the youngest kid's cabin, and so they kind of teach them how, like, they kind of coach them around, show them, and then the counselors they're with kind of give them some insights on how to be a counselor, so that they're prepared on what to expect when they're actually a counselor.
Beautiful. Okay. Are we sure no questions? Yeah, we can throw you this cute. Is it heavy?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I don't trust myself with throwing it, so you have a good aim. Hmm? Okay. Knowing myself, that I would still end up accidentally hitting someone. Anybody? Any takers? Any questions? Everyone feels good? Okay. Cool. Well, if y'all have any specific questions afterwards, feel free to come up and ask us, and then Julie will be outside with her table. Oh, she wants the box.
She wants to throw.
Oh.
I guess my question is for like counseling. How, okay, so my sister is thinking of being a counselor since she's not old enough to be a camper anymore, but she has spina bifida and has to like the caffeine and everything, like the rest of the campers. So how can she be a counselor and do her treatment at the same time? How is that?
Can definitely be a tough to manage your needs and the campers' needs. I mean, I guess it's gonna come down to a lot of like, if she can manage all of it, like she'd have to be able to manage it all on her own, and kind of the campers' needs still primarily come first. There are ways there, we do bring back former or adults with spina bifida, former campers as counselors. So we have tools to help them come up with plans to manage bowel programs. I mean, Kathleen would be this similar to, the
Going to the
rest of-
bathroom no more.
Yeah, how everyone else just takes a minute or counselors get a break each day. So there's always like little bits of pieces to like go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
But
But the bowel,
the
Right,
bowel
takes
part
longer.
can be a little bit more complicated. I don't know if Julie wants.
she's independent and she could do all of everything on her own. but,
So
like,
I usually tell my adults with spina bifida that their care, it's kind of like what they have said in other things where you need to take care of yourself to be able to care for our campers. But also thinking about that, are you able to care for a counselor or camper as well as yourself? You know, so just as long as you can balance that. The other part of that is the biggest, you know, cathing is doesn't take that much longer than me going pee. And so if I'm going pee, I'm a counselor and I need to go to the bathroom, then I step away and go to the bathroom. I just tell my other counselors. If you know, you have the same rules about all of the safety for our campers, and that, you know, just going pee is going pee, you know, period, if you're cathing or not cathing. But the bowel programs are the thing that probably most people get scared or worried or nervous about.
that's the part.
We do provide other areas for people to go and do their bowel program, so they're not in there with the campers if they're taking a long time. We do, if that is a big time constraint, if it's an everyday thing, we do build that into a schedule for you. They do have a break from an activity, but they can also step out of an activity and go do that as we build the teams. We try to take that into consideration. So if just like lifting, I have, you know, some older counselors that, you know, like me, that maybe don't want to lift a 150-pound camper. So I put them with two counselors that are able to lift really well. I do the same thing about bowel programs. You know, it's just another thing that you have to do. If I have a diabetic counselor, I'm going to make sure that I have coverage in there in case they need to go and rest because their blood sugar dropped and they need to go get a snack. So I really do take that into consideration. That's why I ask a lot of medical questions. And the adults with spina bifida, the first time they come out, I do try to put them as a fourth counselor in a cabin just so they can get their bearings, especially if they haven't been to camp. Like these guys have been to camp before, so they kind of knew what to expect. But it is different being a camper than to being a counselor. I don't say, oh, well, they have spina bifida, so they don't have to do XYZ. That's not how it is at camp. They're an adult just like the next person. But at the same time, you know, because my goal is that, you know, like Avery is taken care of. So it doesn't matter if you have spina bifida, if you have diabetes, if you have a bad back, you need to be taking care of my camper. So that's kind of how we lay it out. So I do try to accommodate in those areas as much as possible for that best option.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Thank
But
you.
your kids are still the priority at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like,
At the end of the day, the campers.
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I can sing.
Any other questions?
Oh, I want to throw it.
Yeah, so I got to volunteer at camp this past year. And actually one of the counselors in my cabin had spina bifida, an adult with spina bifida. And he was I forget the term, he could walk. I don't know what the ambulatory. But I don't even like cathing, like it was just normal, like it was the same as anybody going peeing. I can't even remember what his bowel program was. It didn't make any difference. Like it didn't get in the way of anything. So yeah, I know every case is different, but it was pretty smooth with him. Yeah, it was really fun. I had a great time and I learned a lot. So my daughter, it just turned 1. So like I was very new. I went to camp because I didn't know a lot about spina bifida. And so I just kind of went to like learn how that all works. So yeah, it's been fun. I hope to go back. I had an extra week of paternity leave that I used, which I don't have this year, which kind of stinks, but yeah, because I have 3 boys. And so yeah, she was home with them as well. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. Okay, well, anyone else have any last minute questions or comments? No. Okay,
Can I say something? So as far as family camp goes, it's also huge, not like obviously Willow doesn't know anything about family camp, but for our boys, for siblings, it was so huge for them
Yeah.
to like normalize seeing wheelchairs and, talking about spina bifida and making friends that, might look different than them. And they talk about it all the time. They all picked out their spina bifida camp or their family camp shirts today because they wanted to wear them. So that's just been really special to see them really taking ownership in their little sister's experience and making it their own.
yeah, that's a great point. It's great for the entire family, not just the parents or kids, but also for the siblings as well. So thank you for adding that in. So just to close us off, every child develops their independence at their own time. Growth can happen in those small, brave steps. And then support and independence can exist together, and that's what camp is all about. So again, thank you all so much for joining today. We've got 2 QR codes. So if you are interested in Hispanic Family Camp, that registration will be due in a couple of days. So if you want to scan that, and then we also have our Camp TLC registration open. It's all good to go. So if you are interested, go ahead and get started on that. And then lastly, here are just a couple of resources. You do have copies of the slides. The first 2, you can look up those links. And then the last one is a printout that y'all were handed out today. But if y'all have any other questions, feel free to come up and ask us. But thank y'all so much for joining. Yes, thank you so much.
One up for the house. That's something.